how does trauma affect us physically? And I want to look first at how it affects our memory. So for many people with complex trauma, they have flashbacks. It's a very disturbing part of that. So they all of a sudden are walking in the day and there's this intrusive memory that just pops into their mind that is just causes them to start shaking, sweating, breathing hard, and creates great anxiety. And so they didn't invite that thought in. It just, these intrusive memories come in. Others have nightmares, dreams that are very scary. Others, they go to certain locations or events, or they meet certain people, and all of a sudden they get these flashbacks. They get triggered by driving down the street, going back to your hometown, whatever. And they can be very scary, and they can send you back into a fight, flight, freeze response in a heartbeat. And so it's just a reality for many people. But then the next one is that most people with complex trauma experience gaps in their memory. There's periods of their life that they just have no memory of. So I've dealt with many clients that don't have any memories before the age of 12. I have others that don't have any memories around particular years when they're 6 and 7 or 8 and 9 or whatever. What's that all about? And so it's really, to me, important to understand there's a lot of pieces here. So it begins with cortisol. So cortisol was actually designed to increase your memory. Cortisol was designed only to be delivered to the brain in short bursts when a person was in danger. And so what would happen with that cortisol is it would get the adrenaline going, give you energy to fight or flight. So you could get out of the danger, you could get back to safety, then the cortisol would stop. But what happened with that is the cortisol would burn into your memory what just happened. And it was its way of saying, be aware of this, you never want this to happen again, this was terrible. And so that's where for many people, they can still remember 9/11/2001, where they were standing when the jets went into the towers in New York. It's because the brain said that is a significant, world-changing, scary event. Don't forget it. So cortisol kind of burns in memories. That's the design. But what happens with complex trauma is that the child is in danger all the time. So cortisol is always pumping. It wasn't designed to do that. And it starts to do damage in the brain. So you have your left lobe and your right lobe of the brain that are joined by this bridge called the corpus callosum, which is just a thick network of nerves and fibers. And so what happens with that is when we go through any event, we create a memory. Part of the memory gets stored in the left lobe, part of the memory gets stored in the right lobe. Then when you go to remember it, so let's say you remember a detail, then it connects it to the other lobe and it brings back the emotions. So in one part of the brain, in one lobe goes the emotions of the memory. In the other part goes the details of the memory. And then anything that triggers the emotions, anything that triggers the details, corpus callosum joins them and you get back the full memory of details plus emotions. But what happens with cortisol pumping all the time is that it burns the bridge, the corpus callosum. So what then happens for some people is they now don't even have access to the details. They don't have memory of the details. Others, they get all kinds of memory to the details. They just don't have any emotions around the details. So they can tell you, oh, yeah, I was sexually abused. Yeah, I was beaten all the time. And it's like they're reading a phone book. There's just zero emotion. And so you get very detailed emotion with no memories or huge memory gaps. So what happens when a person gets into recovery, they get into safety, so the cortisol isn't pumping anymore, the corpus callosum starts to heal. Now, here's what typically starts to happen as the corpus callosum starts to heal. So let's say that you were a person who didn't have any details of memory. You had memory gaps. But now the corpus callosum starts to heal and you start getting wisps of memory. You start getting these weird dreams and you go, don't think that happened to me, but it kind of feels real. And you're not sure what to make of it. What I find for many people at this point is part of them wants the memories to come back. Part of them is afraid for the memories to come back because they're afraid of what they're going to find out happened to them and how painful it was. And so they find themselves in this dilemma. But I get asked all the time about memories. Will they come back? And I say if you're in a healthy environment, safe environment, and that corpus callosum is healing, memories definitely will come back. Now, maybe not all of them will, but definitely some will. All of them might eventually come back, but you might still have gaps years later. But here's what I want you to understand. Do you realize that the memories aren't coming back until the corpus callosum is healing? And the corpus callosum is healing because you're safe. There's no cortisol pumping. It's almost like the brain is made, so it's not going to bring back memories unless you have safety, support, tools. It's almost like it knows, has a sense of the right timing for when to bring the memories back. It won't bring them back until you're able to deal with them. Until you're able to process them and resolve stuff internally and heal and grow. So what I want people to realize is don't be afraid of memories. The memories aren't going to come back until you're safe, have support, have tools. The second thing I want people to realize is, because I often get asked, well, then how can I heal and grow if I don't have the memories? And what I say to people is, I don't need to know your specific memories to understand some of your core issues. I don't know what caused you to have deep shame, but I know you have deep shame. I don't know what caused you to have a deep fear of abandonment, but I know you've got a deep fear of abandonment. I don't know what caused you to dissociate so much, but I know you have deep dissociation issues. So I can work on those. And I can help you heal those. I can help you learn new tools and grow in those areas. I don't need the memories to do healing. Now, it might help you down the road to get some of those memories, and they're going to add clarity to some of that and help you be able to go to even deeper levels. But we can start by just working on the issues. Now, there's another piece to this memory. So we talked about the memory gaps. So they're the person that just doesn't remember anything. So that part of the brain has been cut off because of the corpus callosum. But what happens for those people is if they walk into a situation, all of a sudden, let's say they go to a certain neighborhood in town. All of a sudden they could be panicking, they're sweating, they're breathing hard. They don't know why. So they're having an emotional flashback without the memories. So that's what happens for many people with complex trauma who have memory gaps, is they don't get memory flashbacks, they get emotional flashbacks. They get that lobe of the brain is being triggered, but they can't connect it to any details. So that is a very real reality for many people from complex trauma, is they have these emotional flashbacks, but they don't have a clue why. As you get to safety, as you get working on yourself and the corpus callosum heals, what begins to happen for many people is the emotional flashbacks, they begin to connect it to memories of certain details, and gradually they can rebuild the memory.